Welcome to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my special guest today is Robert Earl White. He is a paranormal investigator. He's got a great new YouTube channel out. Robert has had a very interesting childhood, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that and about his new adventures in the paranormal. So, welcome, Robert.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun, April. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. My name's Robert Earl White. I was born and raised here in South Jersey, and my whole entire life has been not so normal, paranormal. I've done a lot of different things. I've had a lot of different experiences, but for me, my reality and understanding of it was shattered in 1991, April 21st at 10:18 p.m. when I was only 3.5 years old and my family had a UFO crash behind our house. My family was threatened. The story was covered by multiple media outlets. Men in Black were involved, the Coast Guard, Air Force, firefighters, over 20 witnesses. I found it took me 30 years. I found tons of evidence and information. I came forward. Unfortunately, nothing ever came out of it. No one's interested in that, so I continued to move forward. That happened when I was young, so that was many years, over 30 years of processing. But during that time, when I got a little older, I got involved with the church and I went to Bible college. I became a pastor. I lived in Gettysburg. I went to Bible college in Gettysburg, a very, very spooky, haunted town. I lived in a house that was three houses down from the circle, and I used to do my Bible homework and study about 6 a.m. Before I had to go to class and the sun was just coming up. I would go to Devil's Den and Little Round Top. I would pray and meditate, and right at dawn and dusk, you would just see soldiers, these glimmers of lights of soldiers just walking by, not paying attention to you. They're not interacting with you. It almost looked like a reflection off of a car or something. But when you start looking, you get focused in that. You see for about 3 seconds, you see like the soldiers walking by, like they glimmer in and out. So I went to Bible college out there. Then I started a heavy metal Christian band. We got signed, toured all around the country, had a CD in stores, I Am History. It was a lot of fun. I was the screamer, but I play all instruments. And then after that, I left the church. My band broke up, and I ended up living in the Middle East. I lived in Turkey for 2 years. I was teaching English, and I went to so many ancient sites, and I practiced their culture. I studied it, and many other cultures as well. And just so much wisdom from 2 years of living over there. I came back to the States because my passport was running out. Yeah, you can extend visas, but when you need a passport, you can't do that at the embassy. You got to come home and
Mhm.
do it. I came home, and of course, like so many of us, family. We all come home for family. And then I was a warehouse manager for a commercial door and frames company and window company. So I did that for 5 years until my job illegally fired me when my mother was dying. And it was shortly 2 months after my mother passed away, who, with the UFO crash case, she was an abductee, a contactee. She was working with Bud Hopkins, MUFON, John Mack, and many others. She was on Unsolved Mysteries, Sightings, etc. for hypnosis therapy. She was in the hybrid program. She was in contact with extraterrestrials and all that stuff, hence why the UFO was in our backyard and it crashed. She believed it belonged to a species of these tall gray extraterrestrials with real white skin, and these are her experiences. I've never seen them. But long story short, she passed away, and I just felt so much guilt and pain. And 2 months after her passing, I finally found 6 pages of irrefutable evidence and articles and transcripts of my family's crash case after 30 years of not being able to find any evidence whatsoever. This was also the exact same week. The week I found my evidence of my crash was the exact week when they released the Tic Tac UFO video from the Air Force, the big
Oh,
one, the big Tic
yeah.
Tac. exact same week, which was unfortunate because that's what got all of the attention. And then my story was starting to get around. Local radio stations was sharing it. The Goodyear blimp that everyone recorded, and so it was a UFO that took place in New Jersey. So the crash just fell apart, and from that point on, people just stopped caring about it. So moving forward, after that happened, I spent 5 years trying to help others because I carried the guilt of not being there as much as I could. My mother was in Florida. I was working a full-time job up here in New Jersey, taking personal vacation days to go to Florida and watch my mom slowly die in front of my eyes. It was
Mm,
very, very, very tough. It was a slow, sad process, and I carry a lot of pain from all of that. And I thought getting into the community and helping others, maybe that would bring me some peace. That was not the case, quite the opposite. Not only did I not receive peace, unfortunately, many of the people I tried to help actually turned against me, and it made
mm,
me very bitter. It made me very angry. And that anger, that pain, the guilt, the remorse, the regret, it just was eating me alive. And with no help from the community, it really drove me to a very dark place. And I started drinking. I never really drank anything, but uh, during the end, especially after I went to Washington, D.C., and I found out I was being censored by people way more powerful than I am, I realized what's the point? And then it just went downhill, drinking a handle of whiskey a day. At this point, I wasn't making videos. I wasn't doing things on UFOs. I wasn't interviewing people. I had a lot of shows interviewing people, podcasts, videos, all that stuff. I wasn't doing any of that. I just kept on drinking, kept on getting angrier and getting resentment every time I saw a video, and I hit rock bottom. I lost my license. I lost everything to pay for a lawyer. I had to sell all of my musical equipment, everything I owned. I lost it all, but I got sober, and I've been sober for 1 year and 5 months and 16 days. So, with that being said, during the first 4 months of me being sober and trying to get my life back together, my grandmom that lived next door,
mm,
she came home on hospice and I was her full-time caretaker. She was bedbound, so for 5 months, 24/7, I could never leave the house. Maybe if I was lucky, I could leave for an hour, and that would be to go to the grocery store to get food for us and all that. And keep in mind, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a license. I'm the full caretaker and solely responsible for another human being, which I don't have kids of my own. I do have a stepdaughter, but she's 23 years old. I came into her life when she was 14, so I've never had a baby. I've never had another human life that is fully dependent on me.
mhm,
So it really broke me in the best possible way. It was, yeah, of course, really hard to watch my grandmother who has COPD slowly go in front of me over those 5 months. But at the moment of her passing, which I was right by her side, when she passed, I felt my mother there for the first time within that 5 years since losing her. I was raised by my mother and grandmother. I didn't meet my dad until I was 9 years old. Just to give you, my whole world came down. But at that moment, even though I thought it would be awful, of course I was bawling. I was screaming. When she passed away, I was screaming so loud. At that moment, I felt like just this peace. All the guilt I was carrying, and I was trying to help others as a way to patch up that pain I had in my heart, which unfortunately just left me with even more pain because that's not the way that you fix these things. The
mm,
truth is, you're not in control of when these things will get fixed. The universe will throw things at you and absolutely annihilate you
mm,
until you learn the lesson. You don't get to choose. No matter what choice you make, when the universe is ready to break you, that's when it will happen. We are not in control of that. That's what I learned. We are not in control of that. And it took me becoming absolutely broken in this experience and feeling my mother. And this is what drove me to, after that, I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I love to do. And that's looking for the paranormal. because after feeling and all of my life experiences and going to places like Göbekli Tepe and the 25 other sites that the public don't even know about that are still buried underground over a 50-mile radius in Shanoufla and that whole area where Abraham's hometown, fun fact, people have no idea how much history is actually in Turkey. It's not Turkish
Oh,
archaeologists. They're all German archaeologists over there. And the city I lived in was a huge city for the Hittite Empire. They have mummified temples and stuff built into the mountains. Public, I still have not seen it. I've been to these locations. I've been inside of them with the German archaeologists. I have not seen publications of these places yet. There is so much going on that the public is not aware of, and I got to learn so much. But going back, all these paranormal things and experiences and wisdom, going to Bible college, becoming a pastor, all this. When I went to the Middle East, I've been to the mosque on Juma, Ya Rabbi, bin Shukr, Alhamdulillah. I know all that, Inshallah, mashallah. I practice Ramadan. I love cultures. I love studying religions, not just studying it on book. I like practicing it. Even though I have my own beliefs, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Jew, I'm not a Muslim, I'm absolutely nothing. I love respecting and practicing to see what light I can find in someone's belief and to see if there's any wisdom or ancient knowledge that can be useful to me by practicing these things. Like I love Sufism. The
mhm.
guys that spin around and stuff,
Oh my God.
Shams Tabrizi, Rumi, studied all of them. They're Turkish philosophers. I've been to their cities. I've learned the ancient mysticism of Islam, which is awesome. It's very similar to Kabbalah and other things of that nature and other cultures around the world. And so I just loved learning all of that and having that experience. And I was so fortunate to be an American that got to go in a city where I was the only American. I was 10 hours away from Istanbul.
Oh,
So, my whole entire life, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences. And after losing my grandma, my best friend, we were working together, Anthony S. and Blair. We were doing UFO stuff. We had big things planned. And then my grandma got sick. And he's such a good friend. He said, do what you need to do. He had to do the same thing for his grandmother. He loved more than in the world. He said, you do what you need to do. I'll be here. So after she passed, and I valued that so much, I said, bro, let's get into it. Let's just go out there. Let's start going to wild places. Let's get nice equipment, gear, scientific equipment, and let's just start documenting stuff and having a good time doing it and getting to travel and stuff because, after dealing with that with my grandma, I realized life is short.
oh
And,
yeah.
I spent so much time trying to do other things, but I was just a rat chasing my own tail. At the end of the day, it seemed like the harder I tried to make disclosure happen, the harder I tried to inform people, the harder I was pushed out. So you just come to a point where you got to do what's best for your mental health. And unfortunately, in spiritual communities and stuff, because it is such a vast comprehension of this universal knowledge and stuff is all over the place. And every single person has their own experience. I'm not saying that it's not true or true that no, that's beyond the point. It's just a heavily saturated place of a lot of crazy for our little brains to
Yeah.
comprehend. It's so
Right.
much crazy, no matter what subject you go in, we gotta file things. And in this broad community and spectrum of disclosure, spiritual, all this awakening, super soldier stuff, it'll drive you mad. There's too much going on, and so much drama. And this person is right, this person is wrong. Everyone has answers. Nobody has questions. I'm more interested in the questions, and there's no better way to question things than to get out there in the field with my team, Paranormal Unearthed, with Anthony S. and Blair, my colleague, and my girlfriend. We're going out there, And we're learning the history of these places. We're going there, we're asking questions and trying to connect with that history to see if we can document any sort of evidence of something existing on a plane beyond us. And that's what we're doing with Paranormal Unearthed, which we're on YouTube. So please go check it out, subscribe. And we've done a few really awesome investigations. To get to this point, it took me being broken over and over and over. And obviously throughout my life, I've went through like really, really difficult things. When I was 16, my 19-year-old cousin was taken out, a bad deal gone wrong. I had to do his eulogy at 15 years old. My family was so shook up, no one had the strength to speak. And at 15 years
Mhm.
old, I got up there and oh, I was a wreck. You could barely understand, but
Yeah.
man, that was really hard to do. But I didn't let that define me. I've always transmuted negativity, and I've always tried to make the best out of it, to be that spark in a world of darkness. No
Yeah.
matter how small that spark is, as we were talking about, April, before all this, being that spark can
Mhm.
really make a difference in the
It
world.
does. You read my mind. I was thinking it makes a difference. And I'm so thankful that you are now on the other side, enjoying life, being excited about your new adventures. And can you tell us about some adventures that you've had? You haven't had this new Paranormal Unearthed YouTube channel that long, have you?
No, no, not long at all. We started, let's see, it was my mother's birthday was our first investigation, August 31st. Our very first with Paranormal Unearthed. If you go there, we have three videos up right now. We're actually working on another one. But yeah, we're just we're putting a lot of work in there. Anthony is a phenomenal video editor. He's the one that's doing a lot of it. We work
Mhm.
together. We're sending clips. I'll animate something, but he does the bulk of it, and it takes so much work, time, and energy.
No,
It's
I
like
know.
he will seriously sit at his computer from sun up, sundown,
Mhm.
24/7 working on it. I've never seen anyone have that kind of work ethic or drive. Yeah, our first investigation was in Staten Island, New York, not far from Anthony. He's a former New York City police officer, and he lives in Staten Island. So he's retired now and he's up there. And Staten Island has an old tuberculosis hospital called Seaview Hospital. It was the largest tuberculosis hospital built on the East Coast and the most expensive, consisting of over 37 buildings with over three
Oh my
miles of
God.
underground tunnels
Wow.
connecting all of the facilities.
Wow.
This place is massive. So we said, let's get in there. There was only one way in, one way out. There was one opening in the fence that was cut where you got to sneak in. And we got there and we said, let's start in the basement because, you know, it's still earlier in the day. We said, let's start in the tunnels and the basement because there's no light down there. We're deep,
Oh.
deep underground. So it'll be dark. And then let's start with that. And then later on, we'll do the rest. So we spend about 2.5 to 3 hours down in these tunnels and basements. And what happened is documented. It's pretty wild. But the craziest part is, and I will go over some of the things we caught. The craziest part, when we got done with the tunnels and we came back up
Mhm.
to where we came in and we were looking at the thing, during that 2.5 hours underground, a construction crew came and sealed up the fence that we came in through. 8 foot reinforced steel barbed
Oh
wire fence.
my gosh.
From that point on, it wasn't about hunting ghosts. It became we could care less about the ghosts. And but we did care. We did not want to be stuck in there.
Yeah.
And I think because while we were down there, we didn't realize what was happening. But just like the patients that would be sent to that tuberculosis hospital, oftentimes with them thinking it was contagious, once you went there, you weren't leaving unless you were cured, and no one was cured. So a lot of people, even though it was a beautiful, state-of-the-art place, no matter how beautiful something
Mm.
is, if you're stuck there and can't leave, it's
Right.
not so beautiful anymore. And I think whether we knew it or not, just literally physically being locked in this place against our will, I think that triggered some of the mind-blowing evidence that we documented. We actually got on video.
Oh,
It
wow.
started off with we had a gurney down in the basement, a lot of bell activity, a lot of orbs. One of the very first things, I was standing in a doorway and there was a massive dirt foundation in the room behind outside the basement, just massive, complete dark. And there was a shadow figure about waist high walking right behind me in the doorway, about that high, walking completely straight, even though there was a mound of dirt going up like this. The object was like walking straight as if the dirt wasn't even there. It
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. It started off with that and crazy activity. Then it moved to capturing footsteps on a thermal camera.
Oh,
Footsteps in the same area, something walking, and it goes behind the thing, and you see the footsteps, one hot spot after another,
oh
after
my
another,
God.
after another, for about 3.5 steps, like boom, 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 and then it goes behind a pillar that was there. Obviously, you can't see it. Then when we went down in the basement the whole entire time, my colleague Anthony S. Player, the whole time he was saying he just feels like a woman. He kept on saying this woman, and with our devices, we were getting something about this woman called Vicky, and all of this and that. But a lot of times he's like, "Dude, I would have swore I just saw a woman," or we would be walking. It's like, "Dude, did you hear that? I just heard a woman's voice." But we didn't get anything. I'm like, I didn't hear it. But then we started all hearing stuff a little bit, all of us at different points being separated in some of these hallways. But there was one moment where we captured a Class A EVP, and it's not even necessarily like I don't like to say electrical voice phenomena or anything like that because it wasn't on a digital voice recorder. We recorded this clear as day voice on three different video cameras. We
Wow.
have it on a GoPro, we have it on a cell phone camera, and my Psionics night vision camera. And we were setting up, and as clear as day, we were down in the tunnel. You could hear a woman's voice say, "Help! I'm
Oh,
hurt." Just like that.
oh,
The same
oh,
strain in the voice. We did not hear anything. We heard nothing. We don't react to it. We don't nothing. But the craziest thing, you hear the reverb on the voice. There's like echo from it being down in the
oh,
tunnel. There's
oh,
echo on the voice, but we didn't hear anything.
oh my
And
God.
if my girlfriend would have been, we're down in a dark tunnel. If my girlfriend would have said, "Help, I'm hurt," Anthony and I would have, "Oh, what happened? You hit your head on a pipe? You stepped on a nail?" Like we were in a dangerous, there was over 3 and 4 inches of asbestos, dirt, rust, and debris on the ground in the
Oh,
entire place. All the all the material, all the instruments, the electroshock therapy chairs, everything left untouched. Everything was there
oh,
as is. We were the first paranormal team to bring equipment in there and do any sort of investigation. So we got that voice. At a later moment, we were walking in one of the things and we caught this on 4 cameras. As we were walking, we hear a rock. And this is down in a tunnel in a basement area. We hear a rock that was projected. Not a rock. Like I said, there was a lot of sediment on the floor. If a rock falls on there, it kind of has a dud, like
yeah.
this was like a ricochet off of a wall. Something was thrown. We documented. We didn't document what the object was, but the sound of the object being thrown, we documented on 4 different cameras, which we show all 4 different vantage points. Then it moves along, and we got another voice that says, "Die," just like that. So
Oh,
it seemed from our investigation, and we've talked to other people that have abilities and psychic mediums that contact us afterwards, and actually hearing what they said, they knew things that we haven't told the public about the investigation,
mm.
things that we experienced down there that it didn't make the cut to the video, but these medium people, they knew all of it, which was kind of helped us know who actually has abilities and who doesn't. And a
Mhm.
few people absolutely proved themselves to have some actual abilities. But it seems like there was this strong woman president kind of following us, trying to protect us from this more hostile. And like, oh, why are you calling it hostile? Well, we we believed the male energy. We believed it was a janitor. We had them coming through on the spirit box and all this stuff. But the rock being thrown, the male's voice die. And then what happened next? This is the cherry on the cake for that episode. I was physically grabbed and attacked. Remember, I said we went out and we realized we were locked in there.
Right.
So, and we're surrounded the whole entire property by 8 foot barbed wire fence. So we said
Oh
we
my
need to
God.
go through this entire facility. We got to find a ladder, some sort of blanket, something, tools. Maybe we can find wire snips. So it wasn't about investigating anymore. And we
Mhm.
said, well, maybe through the tunnels by going under and through we
Mhm.
can get out.
Uh-huh.
Maybe like if we go deep enough, we can find a way out. So we are like panicking. Keep in mind, I have about 35 pounds worth of gear, all my gear, about, $7,000 worth of gear in my backpack, huge, huge pack. And we're walking and stuff, and I'm getting frustrated. We're all like kind of getting panicky. We're all sweating. We
Yeah.
were angry.
Yeah.
Like, my colleague was cussing like, what the F out of all days for them to come and seal that is why we had to be down here. This is BS, like we were upset about it. It wasn't
Mhm.
fun. It was ruining our investigation. We're
Right.
stuck there, Now we can't focus on documenting ghosts because if we don't get out of here, we're gonna be one of them. For real. So like we were like,
Yeah.
what do we do? And it was at this moment Anthony pulled out his cell phone and I'm up ahead, Amy's walking behind me, and we're frantically looking. And I was going up the steps and something grabs the top of my book bag. You actually see it lift up. And I was on the process of going up the steps, and this thing pulled my top of my backpack up and hard, so hard that my backpack actually came completely unzippered from the weight of it.
Oh.
And all of my gear, my DJI drone, my cameras, everything fell into asbestos, dirt, and rust.
Oh.
And we couldn't even comprehend what happened when we got home and reviewed the footage. Because honestly, the amount of force, it stopped me. I thought I got my book bag stuck on something. We
Mhm.
reviewed the footage. There was nothing there. And when we
Oh.
zoomed in, you
Wow.
see the backpack being like lifted up right at the top.
Wow.
And it was at that point, especially after having all my gear, we were frustrated. We found an old ladder from the 1940s. It was an A-frame. By the time we got it to the top, it snapped apart, and we just had one half of an A-frame with wood steps with steel on the sides, with 1 foot that was wood that was broke and cracked. And we lucked out when we found a fire blanket covered with asbestos that we used to put over the barbed wire. And we got out of there, and it was it was absolutely insane, and that's our first episode. Talk about welcome to the
Whoa.
paranormal community. Heck of an
Wow.
investigation. Yeah, Anthony did a wonderful job putting that all together. That was our very first one and just figuring everything out. People have no idea how much work because we had hours and hours of footage. We went to Western New York, Salamanca, New York, to the Wildwood Sanatorium. And that one was wild. First built in 1900, became operational in 1909. It was a holistic healing place,
Oh.
like a rehab place. They didn't use like medicine, surgeries, but people struggling with addiction, mental illness, non-contagious diseases. They practiced bone stretching. They did a lot of bath therapies, including battery baths, where they put electrocharge through the battery. They did hot baths, cold
Oh.
baths. It was very cutting edge for its time. Unfortunately, in the 1920s, when tuberculosis went all crazy. The
Mhm.
state of New York forced the Wildwood Sanatorium and Dr. Henderson to take in tuberculosis patients,
Oh,
which their holistic needs was not appropriate for tuberculosis. No one knew how to solve tuberculosis.
right.
Even the Seaview Hospital, they made it all big and beautiful because they thought sunlight, fresh air, and stuff that will solve it. Everyone will feel good. That wasn't the case. So anyone that was involved with that, it was really hard. And that's kind of when the place got like a darker, not because of anything John Henderson did, but these people coming there with hope and unfortunately going in the ground because there wasn't a cure for many, many years. So
Mhm.
it had quite the past in history, and we had tons of evidence in that place as well. I was touched again. We did not capture on camera me being touched. The back of my collar was pulled up. But at that exact moment on our static camera, I was down there by myself after I'm like, oh, I'm touched. We documented a shadow person running away from my direction. So
Oh,
that's the second time I had a shadow person in my vicinity. Second time I was touched. Except that time in Wildwood Sanatorium, I knew I was touched. Where when my backpack was pulled, I thought I got it stuck on something. Because
yeah.
if I would have
Yeah.
realized what was going on, I would have been freaking out. I'm like, oh no, I'm over this. But down there, we knew they have a spirit of a boy called Tommy. And Tommy is a lot of fun. Probably one of the most active children's spirits I've ever came across. Absolutely unbelievable how active he is. He was in his room and he was trying to talk to him. Hey, you can play with those toys. You can light up these devices or play with that. And he said, play with these toys. And we hear a little boy's voice come through as clear as day. And this is our second episode, Wildwood Sanatorium. As clear as day. Mickey. And we didn't know at the time, but there was a Mickey doll buried in the thing of toys. And in that room,
Oh,
we capture hundreds of orbs coming out of balloons, orbs coming out of a toy, going into another toy, orbs coming out of the wall. Like dust don't go in and out of stuff. It doesn't take an intelligent flight path. Dust just falls where it goes or just floats, whatever. These orbs were going in and out of everything. Very mind blowing. And then moving forward, that same room, we had a motion sensor and there was balloons in there. And one of the balloons that was tucked in the room behind the doorway with three other balloons, just one of them, rolled all the way out, tripped our motion sensor. We heard our motion sensor go off. We didn't see the balloon because we didn't want to get any closer to the motion sensor because we didn't want to trip off the motion
wow.
sensor. We were
Mhm.
just kind of making our way. And the motion sensor, it plays creepy music when something goes past it. And then my colleague Anthony says, bro, you hear those light little taps down the steps? And it was a t t t t. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah, I hear it. And but we didn't know what it was. And we get around the corner and we see something at the bottom of the steps. We didn't know it was like a balloon ball, heavy balloon, not like a balloon that floats like one of those
Uh,
balloon balls. They got some weight. But I'm like, is it a bag? And previously I was setting up everything. I went up and down those steps three times, bringing gear up and down, getting ready to investigate the second floor, and I knew nothing was there. So we go down there, like, what? And he had to check his footage because he was in that little boy's room. He's like, look, that's the balloon. It was right there. And we go up there, it's not there. We're like, this is nuts. And then we had a lot of other just interactions down in the basement, a lot of intelligent communication, like me saying, okay, we heard footsteps and things moving around down there. And I said, I'm just going to sit down and listen. And literally, the second I say, I'm just going to sit down and listen, our spirit talker says, sit and listen. And we're like, what? It's that kind of intelligent things,
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
we had our spirit box that scans radio stations, which I use AM because I don't want interference. I don't want radio stations. I just
Right.
want static white noise to allow their voices. And it said my girlfriend's name three times, Amy. The first
Oh,
time it was the
uh,
loudest voice we ever heard come through there. We had a lot of stuff like that. and a lot of other experiences. Anthony recorded some mind-blowing orbs, like big, not like circular. One thing was about that long and it comes up and it goes right across my hand and it's flying. And he caught another thing. We don't know what to call it, but a fairy. It looks like Tinkerbell. Never
Cool.
seen an orb or a bug or anything like that. This is down in the basement. There was nothing down there. That one shook him up pretty good. He was like, I don't we feel silly calling it a fairy, but we just don't know what to call something with that
Right.
kind of shape
Right.
and object. Wildwood Sanatorium did not disappoint. We got a lot of different stuff and activity, and we slept there. Well, I didn't sleep. I
Oh.
was investigating until 5 a.m. in the morning. And I laid down and maybe got like 30 minutes of sleep. Some amazing activity. And then our most recent one, we have a small historical town here called Greenwich in my backyard.
Cool.
Blackbeard used to go there a lot, and Greenwich actually had a tea burning. It was one of the places that had an official tea burning, although the rest of the world don't know about it. But there's a great history here in this area, and it's a very remote place. But the whole entire town has very, very old places from 16, 1700s, very, very old. We did a spirit walk where Paranormal Unearthed, Anthony, I, and Amy, we all went there with one of the shops, it was for 200 years, it was the oldest running market shop in the country. And they did a cool little ghost walk thing, and we had our equipment. But then we had my girlfriend's friend says she had a friend, her house was haunted there.
Mhm.
She was like, "Oh, come over and check it out." So Anthony and I, we go there, and this is our third video. It lives in the attic with her name is Allie, the homeowner. And the very first night we go over there with our friends, and she's just telling us about we don't have all of our gear, equipment. We weren't planning on doing a film. We just wanted to check it out to see is there something really here? And what happened, like Anthony and I, our minds were blown. The amount of activity that happened when we went into that attic right in front of our eyes with the lights on is something, it was nuts. All of our equipment was going off. Our K2 EMF detectors were spiking, and there was a cardboard box that was on top of a bin, and you literally hear scratching. And it got to the point where I was like, bro, there has to be a mouse in there. There has to be like a cockroach or something trying to get out of that box and scraping. And I was afraid to open up the box. I thought something was going to jump out. There was nothing in there. We recorded the whole process of opening it. And when I realized there was nothing in that box, and we just experienced with the homeowner that was right there witnessing all of this, she's like, I hear that all the time. I just always thought it was a mouse. A mouse won't make the K2 meter go red. Every time you hear scratch, the K2 meter was going red. I've
Cool.
never seen anything like it. So after that, our bell was going off so much, and we were like, so the following night, we got all of our gear, and we were like, let's interview her. There's definitely activity here, and we documented once again mind-blowing things. We in the living room, we had a static camera and we recorded a massive orb that is just kind of cruising through. And in the living room, they have the ceiling lights, and there's three of them. And as the orb crosses the one, all three lights flashed on. And that was one of Allie's claims, is that sometimes the lights come on. So we documented that, which was amazing to verify her own experience. And another one was the footsteps in the attic. She says she's had friends over, and we swear we hear it sounds like children running up in the stairs. Well, we documented that plus a lot more. I was outside taking a break. Anthony was up there by himself sitting. It was very, very tight space, and you go up steps, and he was just sitting like on the steps right there by himself. Our equipment's all set up. I left a static cam on the window. We had styrofoam blocking out the windows because we didn't want street lights or anything coming through. We wanted it as dark as possible. So Anthony's sitting there and he's trying to communicate. He's getting some interaction, asking questions. And then on camera, you see it, the back of his hood, you see it pulled up.
Oh my gosh.
And you hear it in his voice. He goes, Rob, 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 where are you? Where? And he goes, and then the spirit talker says cord. And he's like, I was just grabbed. And he didn't even know I was outside. So he's yelling. I can't hear nothing. He's completely alone by himself. He's like, I was just grabbed and the thing said cord. And then it's hilarious. It's not funny, but I like watching it. And then he turns around. He says, all right, I'm going to give you guys your space. And he's slowly, you see him slowly going backwards down the steps and he leaves. After
Mm.
he's gone and he's downstairs, right after the spirit talker says, no, don't leave. And then we captured a full body apparition, ghost shadow creature thing, literally walking like this,
Oh my gosh.
walking, I think walking, I don't know. It's a very odd shape. It's humanish, but it's not humanish. It's shadowish. And this was all caught in a full spectrum camera that
Wow.
sees ultraviolet and stuff like that. So that may have something to do with this, but whatever this shadow being creature was, casted a shadow in IR light with a full spectrum camera. So this isn't like a normal cell phone camera. This is something else, and I'm using IR, so it kind of messes with the fullness of actual full spectrum, but
Mhm.
it's still seeing in a different light spectrum.
Mhm.
And it goes off to the side, and it comes over, and it kind of looks like it looks down. We got a spirit talker right there, and then it just evaporates and kind of fades out. You kind of see it. But during that time, when you really crank the volume, I don't know if it's like footsteps, rustling, but there's some sort of audible happening when that shadow figure comes around. And we were super excited. Between that and the orb turning the light on and the footsteps and some of the auditory noises, the box being scratched, and at the time of the scratches, the K2 bouncing and other equipment. That's what we really like. When we have multiple pieces of equipment verifying that something beyond our sight, something energetically, something that operates with frequency and vibration is causing some sort of physical manifestation, whether that be audible, visual, anything like that. Everything takes energy to manifest
Mhm.
itself. So that was really, really amazing. And that was our latest episode. So check that out on Paranormal Unearthed.